This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning, and we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is finally the 31st of January 2020, and I am DM.
I am Tom.
And I am JM. Well, in case you missed the headlines, here they are. In the Star, SportPesa, why state refused to renew license. In the Daily Nation, anatomy of a power struggle. And in the Standard, dirty tricks in Waitito ouster. So we've got two on Waitito, actually one on Waitito and one on the power struggles between the president and his deputy, and one on SportPesa. Why don't you kick us off with the SportPesa story?
SportPesa story. Why state refused to renew license, and this is by SportPesa. And they say that's because that their security license is being held by the National Intelligence Service. And that's what they think. But you know,
of course, the sarcastic way in which you say it demonstrates how much you disagree with the government's decision to revoke the license in the first place.
Let me tell you, I like Matiang'i. Only one thing I disagree with him is his position on betting, saying, "Oh, you know, we are spoiling our children because our children, you know." It is such
so
a
moralistic,
nonsensical, moralistic argument. Look, the kind of money betting provides to the economy is crazy. But that's not the point. What the government can actually do with this money, nothing actually stops government from coming together with, for example, the betting companies, having a health insurance fund. How many cancer centers can we set up with betting money, right? Now,
are you on a retainer?
No, let me tell you.
From betting firms?
Not at all. It's just common sense for these guys.
But at the same time, too, betting firms cannot be let to just carry out their work unregulated. These are foreign firms to begin with, and then betting is a huge industry.
You see, probably the Interior Ministry thinks Kenya is a banana republic. Betting is not the first industry that has showed up in Kenya. It's been across the entire world. A lot of countries in the first world actually depend. I mean, what Las Vegas is for what? It's a betting, it's a betting city or state or whatever it is. Look, we cannot reduce the amount of companies from 117 to 65. Yes, betting has its disadvantages. That's why it's alcohol. How many people do you know who wake up to?
So what is your final word of advice?
Final word is just don't remove the moral argument away. You can actually regulate these companies in a much more mature way, other than just.
Before this, you're very passionate about this topic.
Yeah.
We can tell. But before we move on to the other headlines, we have a 3-part criteria that we usually use to judge the headlines. One, is it topical or speculative, repetitive or groundbreaking, thoughtful or just plain lazy?
Yes.
What's our take on this one?
Well, because we've been drowning in impeachment lately, this is groundbreaking because they're putting to the fore something that is not being discussed by other newspapers.
The truth
Fair enough.
The truth of the matter is this: the Star has changed its editorial policy.
Okay. So we put that where? Okay. So we've tossed that one.
Wow.
Anatomy of a power struggle. What's happening here? DM.
So the Nation is telling us that during the impeachment proceedings of Waitito, it is actually one Kipchumba Murkomen who botched the process for DP RUTO's camp. And this is why, this is because as they were making the 11-person special committee that will investigate into the impeachment, into the allegations, Murkomen advocated for the selection of 6 out of the 11. 6, and the Nation puts it this way: rabid supporters of William Ruto. And so by doing this, he actually, what the Nation is telling us is that he just exposed the plan, or William Ruto's hand in the impeachment.
But you know what we say? We say that the best strategy is the obvious strategy. And also, desperate times call for desperate measures. When you're this desperate at the 11th hour, surely, I think you have no other choice but to summon the rabid team of Senators.
So what the Daily Nation is saying, because of that desperate action, it actually precipitated a chain of events that pulled State House into the matter, and when they got the weight of the State House behind them, then they lost the thing.
The thing. Okay. I personally really like the headline.
Anatomy.
It's well crafted.
Yes.
It's the kind of thing that we usually see from the Standard. The Nation seemed to be boring a leaf, so I think we'll put it in the parking bay and consider the story in the Standard.
Absolutely.
So basically, if you missed the impeachment proceedings, I think of yesterday or the day before, the Standard gives us a quick snapshot of the key things that happened. And it's telling us also, it's giving us a background, not background, but behind the curtain scene
background
of all the underhanded dealings that were going on. Apparently there was money exchanging hands. There was 4 senators who had sat in during the session but were nowhere to be seen
mysteriously
when it came time to vote. And what the Standard is telling us, the scheme there was to deprive the pro-Waititu impeachment team, the 24 senators they required to successfully impeach him. So there was a lot of bargaining going on, a lot of money changing hands, a lot of horse trading. That's basically what the story is telling us.
And it's expected.
Absolutely. This is how we work in politics. Ultimately, I think we should give it to the Daily Nation.
I think we
agree.
We should, because what it's telling us is if we play this forward, if there's a power struggle between these two, how will it end? Who's got a monopoly of violence right now? And who's playing second fiddle? If the guy who's playing second fiddle is rebelling right now, then
so they're telling us that Waititu's impeachment is not the main event; it's the dress rehearsal.
It's a precursor.
It's a dry run.
It's a precursor for something.
For something bigger to come. Okay, so we toss the Standard. And on to the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. We have a 3-part criteria that we use to judge these cartoons as well. Number 1, is the cartoon humorous or dry? Number 2, is it satirical or pessimistic? And number 3, is it effective or just plain lazy? What do we have in the Standard? Gado.
Gado has drawn the Earth from the space angle, and you can see all the continents are glaring at China. And on the what is the faces of the continent is masks. They are protecting themselves from the coronavirus.
What do you think of this thing, guys? I suspect there's some foul play by someone. There's no way a disease that just showed up from anywhere in 21st century Africa, the world. And you cannot just make these things up. I think there's a sustained effort by someone to actually benefit from this.
And is that benefit going to be political or economic or both?
I think.
And is the culprit America?
I said the other time, it is Besha. Besha is what actually leads this world. So it's a money game.
But political power also equals Besha.
That's true. Money is power. Yes.
I think we toss that.
I agree.
And what do we have in the Nation?
On the Nation, we have Ndula has drawn 2 ragamuffins in the who are Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, and they're dancing. They're Rasta men. And on the side is a very sad, weeping William RUTO, and he's holding a book of hymns, 2022 hymns. And you can see the coronavirus hovering there. But also, all over that tableau is the locusts flying everywhere. And it says, what could possibly stop reggae? So I guess what he's telling us here is nothing can stop the plans of Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. Not locusts, neither will the coronavirus, neither will the deputy president.
I love how they've referenced the deputy president as a good church-going church boy with a hymn book.
And you see, they're also saying that the hymn he is singing continually is about the 2022 succession.
Let me tell you guys, you know what they're wearing, both of them? It's called a khaki suit. Now, khaki suit is, is what reggae guys do. And they're called Bobo Shanties. So UHURU has worn this reggae thing up here.
Hat.
Raila cannot get his hat off, so it still remains the same. However, he's replaced it with a scarf, probably depicting that they're probably high on something.
This is where it was going.
I love this cartoon.
What do you have in the Star?
What do you have in the Star?
The Star. And it is a drawing of MV Senate. It's a ship that holds the Senate. And the anchor is none other than Kiambu, or rather the immediate ousted governor, Ferdinand Waititu. And the caption there, it wasn't smooth sailing for Waititu. I think Waititu could have saved himself in this thing. But let's see what the court says next week. But I think his goose is cooked. Yeah.
The
a
way
plain, lazy cartoon, in my view.
No, I think it has so many layers, this cartoon. It looks like, you see the
maybe I've judged it at face value. Tell us.
If we can put the cartoon back up on the screen, you see Waititu, the position he's in, it's like he's crucified.
Crucifix.
On the anchor.
Yeah, he's crucified on the anchor, and then he's actually been thrown overboard.
Yes.
But also, what does an anchor do? It stops the ship.
Absolutely.
So are they saying that this impeachment then creates a new kind of impasse in the Senate or in the two houses?
That's very, very sharp, because and actually depicts the headline of the nation, the anatomy of power struggle. Absolutely.
Oh, terrific. Now.
For that reason, I vote for that.
I vote for it too. Absolutely. With you
guys don't want Bobo Shanti. You don't want the reggae guys.
No, thank you.
This is more. This is deeper. It's more meaningful.
So this wins.
Yes.
And so we've got a winning headline and a winning cartoon from the Daily Nation.
Absolutely.
And so, what is our final thought?
And now our final thought. It is inspired by a book entitled "Never Split the Difference: Negotiating as If Your Life Depended on It" by Chris Voss, together with Tal Raz.
Yes. So this book was written in 2016, and it holds the secrets to successful negotiations by none other than a former FBI #1 negotiator, an international kidnapping negotiator. So it's a book to read if you want to become a master negotiator. So in this book, they tell us that everyday life is about negotiation. You don't have to be a lawyer or in a business setting. You negotiate at home, you negotiate in school, or whatever it is for a pay rise. A key takeaway for me from this book is that negotiations are much more than the application of logic and intellect. The authors tell us that humans are not always rational. We act on the basis, we don't always act on the basis of logic or reason. To make matters worse, human beings, we are not predictable. So people often act based on animal nature, which is irrational, is spontaneous, and a bit wild. In the 1970s, they say, when negotiation first became defined as a field of studies, it was based on the assumption that each individual acted based on reason. So when you are in a negotiation, you want to take things to your own advantage. But research discovered that humans are prone to what is called cognitive bias. I think we've talked about this before. Which makes us irrational, but it makes us unconsciously irrational, so we don't realize that we're actually being irrational. And studies actually show that there are over 150 kinds of bias that we as human beings suffer from. And one that I found particularly interesting is the framing effect, a bias called the framing effect. This concept states that when people are faced with the same options, they could actually make different choices depending on how the alternatives are framed. And this is so widely used. It's used in advertising. For instance, if you are marketing meat to a demographic that is very health conscious, will you tell them this meat is 95% lean or it's 5% fat? What will you tell them? You probably tell them it's 95% lean, because when you tell them it's 5% fat, they'll be like, 5% is too much. So it's the same options, but they're selecting, they'll make different options based on the alternatives that you present to them, or how you frame the question. So to be a successful negotiator, your approach has to take into account the very complex nature of humankind.
Absolutely. Now guys, my takeaway from this book was chapter 1. And Chris Voss, it's a story of Chris Voss. Now, Chris Voss, as I think you rightly said, he was an FBI investigator for about 20 years. But then he was also, for 15 years, the lead negotiator of FBI. So this guy one day walks to Harvard, Harvard College, Harvard University. Everybody knows Harvard. And he was going there to study a course, and they call it the short negotiating course. The short negotiating course, just to see if he could learn something new. And as he's walking around Harvard, he meets a guy called Robert Nukin. And now this guy is a director of Harvard Negotiation Research Project. But he's also a professor, and he's written a book entitled Bargaining with the Devil, When to Negotiate and When to Fight. Now, as he is walking, Nukin gets word that Voss is around and called him to the office for a chat.
He hears there's an FBI investigator.
He's for 20 years, the lead investigator for FBI on negotiation, on hostage negotiation. And another professor walks in, and immediately they put him on the spot. And they tell him, Voss, your son has been kidnapped. And what we want is $1 million. And if you don't pay $1 million, we will pop him, we will kill him.
But they're presenting this to him as a scenario,
not as the
truth.
It's a scenario. So and they sit, and this Voss guy is taken aback. Oh, my son, my only son has been kidnapped. But then he lowers his heart rate and he calms down. And then they told him, oh, you're refusing to give us $1 million. Now we'll actually pop him. We'll kill him. And this guy sits down and says, you want to kill my son? You really want to kill my son? So, but how sure am I, if I give you the money, that the guy is still going to be alive?
Or you haven't killed him already.
Or you haven't killed him already. And Nukin is taken aback. He's like, oh, I've never seen that kind of thing. Now, in negotiation tactic, and this is one of the FBI's most potent tool in negotiating hostage crisis, it is called the open-ended question. And allow me just to read a little bit of what it's called. Now, it's a tactic called the calibrated question. And he says that queries that this calibrated question means that queries that the other side can respond to, but have no fixed answers. Now, what this kind of question actually does is it sort of gives the person on the other side the illusion that they're in control. But it also allows you time as a victim to actually buy time. Right now, it puts the person on the other side as thinking,
what do I do?
What do I do now? Because he's asked, how sure am I alive? Now you are the one to prove. You have the burden of proof to actually prove that the person you're holding hostage is alive.
Which gives you time as negotiator.
Absolutely.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Another thing that he talks about is your ability to build trust. Building trust with another human being, particularly in negotiations, is very effective. And it gets that person to basically break down their, whatever barriers they might have as they're talking to you. And you're able to convince them better. And so he says, closely, and how do you build trust? And he breaks it down. The first thing is you've got to be an active listener. And so he says, closely listening to and repeating what your counterpart says builds trust. And engaging in active listening is a secret. So when you listen, basically what you're doing is you're showing empathy to the other person. And you're demonstrating that you understand what that other person is going through. And one technique for doing this is what he calls a mirror strategy, or mirroring. So repeating what your counterpart says, but with an inquisitive tone. It makes the other person feel that you are similar to him. Now, as human beings, we are all drawn to each other by similarities. We tend to group with people whom we think we have similarities with. That's the cognitive logic behind the reason for why you ought to mirror the other person. And he gives an example of an experiment that was conducted by a psychologist by the name Richard Wiseman. So Richard Wiseman went to a restaurant and he observed certain waiters for a period of time. and the waiters would take orders from their customers. One group was asked to do the mirroring strategy, and the other group was asked to use positive reinforcement phrases such as "sure," "no problem," "great," you know, when the customer places the order.
Absolutely. So the other one was when the customer says, "I want chips," he says, "Chips?"
Yeah, exactly. Chips. You know, and at the end, you know, you would confirm the order and all of that. And what the experiment revealed is that waiters who mirrored the orders made by the customers received higher tips. Right? And they think about yourself, right? When you go to a restaurant, you gain more confidence, you feel like you're being taken more seriously when the customer is listening and repeating to you what you're saying.
So
you know,
you place
the order, I want chips and a burger.
And they repeat your order.
And absolutely.
So you're sure they'll get it right.
You're sure they'll get it right. And, but more than that, subconsciously, they're repeating what you have said. And that
it's an attention thing.
Plays a really big role in your perception towards them.
And I think that's very true. I think as human beings, one of the things that we crave the most is to be seen or heard, or to know that you're being listened to, or giving us some kind of validation.
It's an affirmation thing.
It's
an affirmation.
So that's important in negotiation.
Very important in
You'll
negotiation.
bear that in mind when you're seeking a raise.
And just to throw some...
Repeat what your boss says.
To throw something in from Dale Carnegie's book about how to win friends and influence people. He says, we like people not because of... we like people because of how they make us feel. Not because of who they are. So I like you because of how you make me feel. The fact that you're repeating, the fact that what I'm saying, the fact that you're listening to me, the fact that you know my name and you say my name. All these things, very little things, but they go a long way. And all of these will help you in negotiating your way to success, to riches in 2020.
Amen.
Can I get an amen?
Amen.
On a day that we had a winning headline from the Daily Nation and a cartoon from the Star, I hope it was the Star. I will leave you with this quote on building trust. When your counterpart begins to trust you, he will become more likely to talk and eventually you find a solution and reach a good bargain. So, do not forget that we are now on your TV screens. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are on Pang Free to Air, Go TV, and Star Times. Have a good weekend.